Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Talk Sports podcast on Sunday night, October 15th at 9:03 p.m. Let's get right into it. Here are my top 25 rankings after week 7. At number 25, SMU. I have been... Hi, brother. I have been really surprised with SMU and how good they've been this year. Preston Stone is one of the 3 best group of 5 quarterbacks. At number 24, Georgia State. Yes, it's another group of 5 team. Georgia State, a lot more people need to start taking them serious. At number 23, Ohio University. The Bobcats make their debut in my rankings. They're another team that has been very intriguing to me this year. And you may see a couple of their conference rivals in the rankings in a few minutes. At number 22 is 5-2 Rutgers. Rutgers is no pushover this year. I know they haven't been good the last couple of years, but if you look at their record right now, they are 5-2. Yes, Ohio University is surprising people. Number 21, Troy. They have been on my radar for the last 2 weeks to get a spot in my rankings. They didn't get in last week, but they're in there this week. Hopefully they can stick around. At number 20, Fresno State. If they were still undefeated, they would have been higher in my rankings. And I think they need to start getting more respect. They are a good team. At number 19, Iowa. Iowa is another team that they've stuck around. I didn't think they were going to win this many games. I had them projected to win between 4 and 5 games in the preseason. And boy, was I wrong. I'm going to take the L on that taking me up before the season started for Iowa only winning 4 or 5 games. Number 18, James Madison. They moved up a few spots from last week. And they are still undefeated. Keep your eyes on James Madison. The highest ranked group of 5 team in my rankings at the end of the year gets a trophy for the best group of 5 team. Hold up. At number 17, LSU. They returned to my rankings after 2 weeks of being out of them. They're another team sticking around. They have their offense is humming. Jaden Daniels is a dark horse Heisman contender. He is on my watch list. He's starting to get my attention for the Heisman. At number 16, USC. I've talked about this numerous times with USC. Their defense is what is going to hold them back from being in the playoff. If they can have at least reasonable defense, they will be in the playoff. But as you see this week, they're at number 16 because they got absolutely butt whipped by Notre Dame. At number 15 is Toledo. Toledo moved up. They were number 18 last week. They moved up 3 spots to number 15. And they're a team that if they keep winning, they could find themselves in the top 10 of my rankings. At number 14, Duke. Duke moved up from 23 to 14 this week. And Duke is winning without Riley Leonard. At number 13, Notre Dame. Notre Dame had an impressive win over a team I just talked about a minute ago in my rankings. Notre Dame over USC. Notre Dame absolutely pummeled USC. And I had given up on Notre Dame after they lost to Ohio State and Louisville. But as you can see, I'm back on that train. I still think they have a good chance of making a good bowl game. At number 12, Miami of Ohio. I originally had them inside the top 10, but I decided to put them back at 12 for one reason. I need to see it. They have a big game this week on Saturday against Toledo. And if they beat Toledo, they can cement themselves as a top 10 team in these Talk Sports podcast rankings. At number 11, Oregon. Oregon lost a close game to Washington, so that is why they didn't move down that far. At number 10, Air Force. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to start taking the Air Force Academy serious. We can't pass them up anymore to be in rankings. I have them. I know what people are going to say. This is a little too high for Air Force, but I've seen enough to put them in the top 10. At number 9, Texas. They were on bye week last week, so they didn't get moved up. They didn't move down. They stayed right where they were. Number 8, Florida State. That is what I wanted to see from Florida State on Saturday against Syracuse. They beat Syracuse 34-3. And that defense that FSU played on Saturday, that's the defense I need to see the rest of the season. And they will find their way in the top 5. At number 7, North Carolina. I know I didn't have them inside the top 10 last week. Now I do. All they need to do is win, and keep winning. At number 6, Tennessee. Tennessee, this is well deserved. You deserve to be number 6. And you may be able to move up even further if you keep winning. At number 5, the biggest jump in my rankings this week, Washington. They were number 8 last week, and they jumped up to number 5 this week. Number 4, Penn State. They have a huge game this week against Ohio State, which you will hear Ohio State's name in a couple minutes. At number 3, Michigan. Michigan fans, I need to apologize. I'm sorry for not having y'all in my top 3 to begin with. I am extremely sorry for that. And if y'all keep winning, you might just jump Ohio State depending on if Ohio State wins this week. Yeah, I can see FSU versus North Carolina in the ACC championship game. I hope Tennessee beats Bama too. At number 2, Ohio State. Like I said, huge game this week against Penn State on big noon kickoff on Saturday. Ohio State, Penn State. Noon game on Fox. Number 2 in my rankings against number 4 in my rankings. And to nobody's surprise, at number 1, I know I've given them slack. They did lose Brock Bowers this week. It is obviously Georgia. But before I get into my little talking about them, my thoughts and prayers go out to Brock Bowers. Speedy recovery from your ankle injury. I never wish injury upon anybody. Get well. Rest up, Brock Bowers. And hopefully you're back before the end of the season. But now on to this. I don't know why I ever doubted Georgia. I know they're the most vulnerable SEC team this year. They are due to lose a game at some point this year. I don't know when, but they will lose an SEC game this year. And the teams that just missed out on my rankings, Kansas, Louisville, Liberty, and Jacksonville State. And the teams that fell out of my rankings this week were Oregon State, Memphis, South Florida, and Ole Miss. And now on to my preview for the South Florida UConn game. This is probably one of the biggest games of the year for USF in terms of UConn's not good, so you should beat them by at least 3 touchdowns. If you don't, the season is probably done if you get beat by UConn. Because you go in your bye 3-5, and it doesn't get any easier coming out of the bye week. You get Memphis, Temple, and I think it's Tulsa and Charlotte. And that's kind of a gauntlet. And if you don't beat UConn, like I said, season is probably toast. Now, here's my updated top 6 Heisman list after week 7. At number 6, I've got Penn State QB Drew Aller. He could move up these rankings with a good performance against Ohio State on Saturday, whether it be in a win or a loss. Welcome back to my top 6 Heisman list, Drake May. He has earned it. I took him off at the beginning of the year because he wasn't playing well, and he's obviously proved me wrong and said that come out and said that he needs to be on my list. And he is on my list now at number 5. At number 4, Texas quarterback Quentin Ewers. He doesn't move up or down because his team had a bye week this week. So he stays where he was. Cameron Ward of Washington State. He had a subpar game this past week against Arizona in a loss, but he had, I think, over 100 or 200 yards passing. So he gets to stay where he was. At number 2, Marvin Harrison Jr. And I don't know how much explaining I have to do here. He is number 2 on my Heisman list. He is the best receiver in college football. You can't tell me otherwise. And I'm going to go into guys that I think got snubbed for mid-season All-Americans after this segment is over. And at number 1, Joe Milton, quarterback, Tennessee. I like Joe Milton. If he beats Bama this week, he's going to stay at number 1 until Tennessee loses again. And my dark horse for Heisman, J.J. McCarthy, Michigan. My players to watch in week 8 of college football. Number 1 player to watch is Penn State quarterback Drew Alec. I think he's going to have a subpar game against Ohio State. I know I decided about him in the Heisman. That was for last week. It could be a one-week wonder, like the second guy I'm going to talk about in this segment. But you're welcome. Drew Alec has had a good year for Penn State. They just beat UMass 63-0. And I'm sorry, but that's embarrassing. UMass, you didn't even score a point. Why even show up? My number 2 player to watch in week 8 of college football is Western Kentucky quarterback Austin Reed. This kid can sling the football around the yard. He's really good. And the last player to watch in college football this week is Ohio State tight end Cade Stover. Cade Stover is going to have a massive game against Penn State. And now I have a couple guys that I think got snubbed for midseason All-Americans. 1, Marvin Harrison Jr. of Ohio State. How I understand he's not having that good of a season, but how are you going to leave him off the midseason All-American list? Like, you can't name me 3 or 4 wide receivers that are better than Marvin Harrison. And before last week, I would have said yes, Caleb Williams is a mid-season All-American. But after a 3-interception game, he's not a mid-season All-American for me. It's Kyle McCord or Byron Brown. And I say those non-biasedly since I'm Ohio State and USF fan. Very non-biased about both of those. Now on to my American Athletic Conference rankings after week 7. At number 14, North Texas. I need to see more from them to move them out of the basement of the AAC. Number 12, East Carolina. They're improving every week. I mean, yeah, you can put Michael Penix on there too. I'm just saying that the people that don't want to put Marvin Harrison on their midseason All-American list, I don't know what world they're living in. And I would put Michael Penix as a midseason All-American in a heartbeat over Caleb Williams. I don't think Caleb Williams is that good. If he was, he would have stayed at Oklahoma and been starting, and they wouldn't have had Dylan Gabriel wouldn't have had to transfer to Oklahoma. Again, number 13, East Carolina. They're improving. They've got a chance to move inside the top to where the number 10 team is. They could jump up to 10 if they keep playing really good. At number 12, Temple. I told you Temple's starting to fall off. No one wanted to listen. Number 11, Rice. Number 10, UAB. Number 9, Charlotte. Number 8, USF. I know I've had USF inside the top 3 the whole year of my American Athletic Conference rankings. Now I'm going to be more realistic with it. This is probably where they're going to be the rest of the season. Because let's face it, they're still rebuilding. But Coach Golish has got them going in the right direction. And Byron Brown is going to be a really good group of 5 quarterback. I said it on Twitter a couple weeks ago. He is one of the best group of 5 quarterbacks right now. You can't convince me of somebody else that's better than him, other than maybe Western Kentucky's Austin Reed. Other than that, you can't convince me otherwise. Number 7, UTSA. This is another team that's disappointing. They were supposed to compete for a conference championship. And I had them and USF being in the conference championship game this year at the beginning of the year before the season started. And I just updated it, and you saw my new updated conference championship predictions. Number 6, Navy. Navy's another team that's been surprising. They've won more. I had them winning only 2 games this year before the season started. And they've already went over that. They've won 3. Number 5, Tulsa. Tulsa's another team that's just sticking around. I completely doubted them they might make the conference championship game. There's still time for USF also. Number 4, FAU. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to start keeping your eyes on FAU. And it's because of 2 people. 1, head coach Tom Herman. And 2, their quarterback, who was making only his 2nd collegiate career start against USF. And Daniel Richardson. He lit up USF for over 330 yards passing. And as a USF fan, I'm embarrassed. I thought our defense was supposed to be good. But the last 2 weeks, we've given up over 90 points combined between UAB when we gave up 56, and this week when we gave up 56 against FAU. Number 3, Tulane. Michael Pratt is back. Number 2, SMU. I talked about Preston Stowe. If you asked me to rank 3 group of 5 quarterbacks in order between Preston Stone, Byron Brown, and Austin Reed, this is how I put them. I put Preston Stone 1, Byron Brown 2, Austin Reed 3. You notice I said Preston Stone is better than Byron Brown because I think Preston Stone has a lot more upside in a Rhett Lashley run offense than Byron Brown does with, I don't remember who the coordinator at USF is. I know Golish calls the plays, but I like Golish and I like Byron Brown. Yes, remember there is a broadcast on Saturday, Tennessee, Alabama. And at number 1 in my American Athletic Conference rankings is Memphis. Seth Hannigan is a good quarterback. Now we get to my brother and my co-host favorite conference, the SEC. Here are the SEC power rankings after week 7. And Robbie, I want your input on if you think there's teams I should move up the rankings in the SEC and move down. Or tell me if I'm spot on with the rankings. Number 14, Mississippi State. Mississippi State's Mississippi State. I don't think there's any debate on this one. Do you think Mississippi State is in the right spot in the rankings? Agree. Okay. Number 13, South Carolina. Shane Beamer, we need to talk. How do you blow a lead to a Graham Mertz-led Florida Gators team? How do you blow a lead to a Graham Mertz and Billy Napier-led team that is 2-7 in SEC road games? Your hot seat is starting to get a little hot. It's lukewarm right now, Shane Beamer. But if you keep losing, it's going to heat up even more. Okay. Number 12, Vanderbilt. Vandy, I'm sorry, but I think your promising season is done. I think it's toast. And I like your head coach, Clark Lee, but I think you need to start recruiting for next year. And that's the only explanation I got. Go ahead and start looking forward to basketball season, Vanderbilt. At number 11, Arkansas. Arkansas is another team that I give them credit. They were down double digits to Alabama and almost came back and beat Alabama. Alabama would have been behind Vanderbilt if Alabama lost to Arkansas. But Obviously, as you can see, Arkansas lost. Do you think this is the right spot for Arkansas in the rankings, Robbie? At number 10, Auburn. I I've been impressed with his Hugh Freeze has done in his first year as head coach at Auburn. I think they're on the upswing, going the right direction. And Auburn fans, I'd like to hear you chime in the comment section whenever you get the opportunity to watch this podcast. And you tell me if I'm right or wrong. At number 9, Alabama. Okay, I need to apologize to Bama fans. I was wrong on Jalen Milroe. Okay. I was wrong on Jalen Milroe after he got benched against Texas. I said that Bama was done and they would lose 4 more games. What has Jalen Milroe done since then? He has shut me up. He's played like a different. He's played like a game manager, to use a term that NFL fans would use for a quarterback. He's played like a game manager. Yes, that is the reason. The main reason Bama's here and not higher is because they have too many 3-and-outs. And they have the one thing I'm going to add is they also have too many penalties. At number 8, Kentucky. I'm disappointed. I did my top 50 transfers before the season for each position, and I had Devin Leary as the number 9 transfer QB this year. And he has been very disappointing. Very extremely disappointing. And I think Kentucky is about to lose 3 or 4 more games, and they will end up at the bottom of the rankings in the SEC. Kentucky is very much slacking right now. I agree. At number 7, Texas A&M. They're hanging on by a thread to a top 7 spot in my rankings. If they keep losing, they will be outside the top 7 by next week. Give them one more week in this range of the rankings. If they lose another game, if they lose 2 more games, they will be outside the top 7. Jimbo's hot seat it's warm right now. But if they keep losing, it's going to get hotter and hotter and hotter. All right, so they have a bye week this week, so they will not be moving in the rankings. I have a surprising team at number 6. Number 6, Florida. They should not have beaten South Carolina, but they did. I don't know how they did. Another quarterback in the SEC that's proving me wrong. Graham Mertz. I gave him all the crap in the world when he transferred to Florida. I said he was not going to be the starter. I said it was going to be Jack Miller. Man, was I wrong. Florida is very much surprising people. What are the chances they beat Georgia? Probably slim. Number 5, Missouri. And I'm going to say something about Missouri, and then I'm going to give you my opinion. I think Eli Drakowitz has saved his job at Missouri. Yes, you are correct. Florida still does have Georgia and LSU. And I think they beat one of those two teams. Either Georgia or LSU. But Missouri, Eli Drakowitz, you were on the hot seat at the beginning of the season. I did not believe in Missouri, and I did not believe in you as a head coach. But now I do. Yes, Missouri could upset Georgia. Number 4, LSU. You heard me talk about them in the rankings. They're sticking around. They're like a cockroach that you just can't get rid of. You think you got rid of them a couple weeks ago, and now they're back. That's LSU. There it is. They're sticking around. Don't let us get hot again, and don't let the offense start to click. At number 3, Ole Miss. LSU's in the right spot. Okay. Ole Miss. This is another team that's sticking around. Jackson Dart is one of the 3 best quarterbacks in the SEC. The other 2, Joe Milton is 1. Will Rogers of Mississippi State is the other good quarterback in the SEC. It could be. Number 2, Georgia. Yes, I know I had the number 1 in the college football rankings, but they're number 2 in the SEC. And they may be stuck at number 2 because they just lost Brock Bowers. And I want to see what my co-host Robbie has to say about Georgia being at number 2. And at number 1, do they need any more explanation? Tennessee, the front runners of the SEC. Yeah, I can see that. Can you also give my opinion on the Can you give your opinion on my Big Ten rankings? Here are my Big Ten rankings after week 7. Number 14, Michigan State. Number 14, Michigan State. How do you blow a 21-0? I think it was either 21 or no, it was 24-7 lead to Rutgers. I was going to move you out of the basement, but you blew that 24-7 lead. Yeah, Michigan State is definitely falling apart. And I'm going to get this up before I get to number 13. Sticking with Michigan State. What are these rumors I'm hearing about Urban Meyer being in East Lansing last week? Michigan State fans, don't be delusional. You're not getting Urban Meyer. He is not coming out of retirement at Fox to go coach for Michigan State. I don't see it. I'm sorry. I just don't see him coming out of retirement to coach at Michigan State. That's what I'm saying. No way. But there's people out there that actually think he will come out of retirement to coach at Michigan State. I think the only way that Urban comes out of retirement to coach is if the Notre Dame job, if Marcus Freeman ever got fired at Notre Dame. Here's what I'm going to say about D'Antonio. He is a special assistant on the staff at Michigan State right now for their interim head coach. So there's an outside shot that D'Antonio could be the head coach again at Michigan State. I'm going to give that like maybe a 5% chance of that happening. They're going to have to find somebody else. And one of the other candidates they're saying is Brian Hartline from Ohio State. Michigan State fans, don't. Yes, D'Antonio used to be head coach there. Michigan State fans, don't be crazy. Hartline is not leaving Ohio State to go coach at Michigan State. I think what's going to happen is Hartline stays at Ohio State, and if they leaves or gets fired, Hartline becomes the next head coach. Now to number 13, Northwestern. This is another team I didn't expect to win the amount of games they've won. They've won 2 games so far. They almost lost to an FCS team last week in Howard, which I'm sorry, but that is embarrassing. Number 12, Indiana. Tom Allen's hot seat is getting hotter and hotter by the day. Right now, it's at like 89% hot. And I'm afraid they're going to lose this week again. And his hot seat is going to get extremely hot. So, Indiana fans, prepare for a new head coach next year. Because you've already fired your offensive coordinator. So, I think Tom Allen's next, unfortunately. Yeah, yes, you are totally correct. Indiana does not have a QB. They're doing QB. I believe they're still doing quarterback by committee. And that is not a recipe. That's a recipe for disaster. At number 11, Purdue. Purdue is a team that I wasn't relatively high on due to the fact that I knew they weren't going to win that many games this year. And they proved my point even more when they only scored 7 points against Ohio State. I know teams that could score more than 7 points against Ohio State. I understand Ohio State's defense is pretty dang good, but Purdue, come on. You had one job, and it was to score more than 7 points against Ohio State. Yeah, I mean, technically they are on the rise. They do have a new head coach. Number 11, Illinois. Brett Bielema, good coach. They don't have a quarterback either. And I could have put Nebraska in front of them. I could have put them in front of a team that is at number 9, which I just said, which is Nebraska. But I have them here because they don't really have a quarterback. And at number 9 is Nebraska. Nebraska is on the rise. I think Matt Rule is going to do well at Nebraska. Just give him a couple of years. Number 8, Minnesota. Not yet. Bielema's hot seat is still warm. Because I think Illinois can still win a couple more games. Number 8, Minnesota. They laid a big time egg against Michigan. They weren't going to win, but they should have kept it competitive, which they didn't. Yes, Jeff Sims is the real deal. I don't know why Georgia Tech let him transfer to Nebraska. That was not very smart of Georgia Tech. But like I said, Minnesota laid an egg against Michigan. They weren't going to win, but I know people out there that were taking the point spread in Minnesota to cover, and they lost money because of it. It was a blowout. Yes, it was. At number 7, Iowa. Iowa's on the rise, folks. You just saw them in my rankings a few minutes ago. And now, here they are at number 7 in the Big Ten standings. No Cade McNamara, no problem. That defense for Iowa is legit. It is a really good defense. Number 6, Maryland. The Terps. The Terps are a really, really good team. I don't know why people are saying that Talia is not as good as Tua. My personal opinion, Talia Tagovailoa is better than Tua. They're surprising a lot of people. And it's not because of their offense. I think Brian Ferentz is going to get fired at the end of the season. It is Iowa's defense that has done really good. But what I'm saying, and the other thing is Maryland. Maryland has a good offense, but their defense is starting to come around too. At number 5, Rutgers. Rutgers is a team that's on the rise as well. They are another team that's going to be good. They're in my top 25 this week. And I think they have a chance to go not to the Big Ten title game because I don't think they beat Ohio State, but they have a chance to win at least 7 games. Number 4, Wisconsin. Luke Fickell is a good head coach. Number 3, Michigan. Michigan's another team that's good. J.J. McCarthy's a really good quarterback. Number 2, Ohio State. Do they need any more explanation? Good defense. Offense, like I said last week, is coming around, and I think they're going to be fine. At number 1, Penn State. And Penn State's going to stay here. Well, we'll find out how for real they are this week as they play Ohio State. And before I do the Big 12, I will be sharing my screen, my Big 12 power rankings. I will be sharing my screen. And we will be going over to YouTube because I'm going to show y'all how you get a membership to the Talk Sports podcast, my channel. Community, you click on this join tab and it pops up right here, and then you just click on join again for whichever membership you want to purchase. And stop sharing, back. Yes, Maryland would have been higher if they beat Rutgers. And Michigan, I agree with you, they haven't played anybody. And now on to the last conference rankings of the show, the Big 12. My Big 12 power rankings after week 7. Here are my Big 12 conference power rankings after week 7. At number 14, Baylor. Baylor they're decent, subpar, and I don't know if they're ever going to move out of the basement. But just a little tease here. You may see them on the show Tuesday. Not saying if it's an upset or a cover or over-under pick, but you may, hint, you may see them on Tuesday. Number 13, Cincinnati. Yes, folks. Number 13, Cincinnati. They've been upset twice this year. And guess who's picked those upsets? Me. First one was Miami, Ohio. And then last week they got beat by Iowa State. And they were favored. Number 12, TCU. And TCU, they're decent. Number 11, Iowa State. I was wrong about Iowa State. I know they're going through the whole scandal thing with the betting scandal, but I think Iowa State's going to be fine, to be honest. Number 10, Texas Tech. Number 9, Houston. They have moved outside the top 10. They're now inside my top 7. They beat West Virginia last week on a Hail Mary. Hail Mary. If they didn't do that, they would still be in that 14 to 10 to 14 range. Number 8, Oklahoma State. Number 7, Kansas State. Kansas State's another team. They won last week, but I need to see them win convincingly in order to move them back up in my rankings. Number 6, Kansas. They're like Kansas State. I think they won last week. They need to show me that they can win consistently. At number 5, Oklahoma. They were on bye last week, so they didn't move up or down. Number 4, West Virginia. They were inside my top 3 last week. That was short-lived. As you see, they're number 4. I still believe in West Virginia. I don't know why. I just do. Number 3, BYU. And that doesn't need any explaining. Number 2, UCF. John Rice Plumlee is back and better than ever. And at number 1, Texas. They are still number 1 until they lose more than 2 games. And ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. will be the fantasy football weekend recap with the waiver wire and players to stash and trade candidates. Players to trade away and to trade for before week 7. Until then, I will see y'all tomorrow morning. Have a good rest of your Sunday night. Hopefully you're winning your fantasy football matchups. But I'm out. Peace.